Today I'm speaking with Cameron Jones, Division Head for Innovation and Sustainability for blocksEDU. Cameron, great speaking with you.
Hey, great to be here, George. Thanks for having me.
I'm actually very excited about the work you've been doing. I've been following where you've been doing in the corporate social responsibility area. And it's such an important topic, and many people really don't understand how incredibly important it is, especially when we're dealing with the fact that we just have one planet Earth. And we have all of these over 7 billion people constantly using it. And if we're not responsible with it, we basically could ruin the planet. And that's where CSR comes in. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you've characterized it very well. Corporate social responsibility is basically everything a company does to create public value, right? So it's holding companies accountable so that they can generate better impacts on the environment, better impacts on society, and also ensuring kind of sound governance of their companies. So it's society holding companies kind of accountable for their impacts on the environment. Where we get our goods from, we want to make sure that all along the supply chain from A to Z, we can feel good about it. We can feel good about those purchases and know that we're not basically harming the environment just by living our lives. CSR is a rapidly growing field right now, but we can go through some questions and
No, you actually said something really interesting because you actually used the term supply chain. I published a course on blockchain and supply chain management, and blockchain is used to keep the integrity of supply chains, but now you bring in sustainability. Do you see a link between the usage of blockchain and corporate social responsibility?
Absolutely. So actually right now in CSR, I was reading Green Biz last night, and blockchain is the #1 trending topic.
Interesting.
I think what happens a lot with CSR is ensuring that from the raw material to the supplier, manufacturer, distributor, and ultimate customer at the end of the day, that these goods, like I said before, these 3 pillars, they have a minimal environmental impact, positive social impact, and good governance. Blockchain, the way blockchain essentially works is it builds accountability through the entire supply chain. I mean, typical issue with supply chain management is you have multiple separate players across the globe. You have a lack of transparency between these players, and you have discrepancies in the records that they're keeping. So it's ripe for issues with self-reporting, modifying records, and it's very difficult for someone like me or you when you go and you buy that coffee and you want to know, is this actually a fair trade coffee? It's pretty much
interesting. Fair trade coffee. Interesting. That's a great point. Great point.
Yeah.
It's you bring that up, and I think about it specifically. You keep using the word impact, and that's such a powerful word because as a consumer, and I'm not even going to say one of the roles of me as a human being is a consumer, right? So I have many roles as a human being. I mean, I'm a parent, I'm a voter, I am so many things, and yet I'm a consumer, and my dollars have an impact on the world. So the truth is, when I buy one product versus another product, I'm having a big impact on the planet. Perfect example, if I have a gas guzzler versus having, for example, a hybrid, that's a choice that me as a consumer can have on the planet. So I assume CSR basically just is an overarching infrastructure of that?
Yes, I mean, it's CSR, and the term can be used quite loosely. So I think your confusion, it's not that it's unfounded or unwarranted. A lot of people experience confusion.
And it's good that you're clarifying, because I don't think it's very clear where CSR comes into the key things. Because in my world, I guess what it means is that there's somebody who's like a champion for the brand to try to just get good PR for the brand.
Exactly.
And is that it? So tell me more.
Yeah, and you know what? That does happen. A lot of it is, I think, often used as a marketing ploy or as a marketing campaign, trying to build that good PR, that brand activism, get your name out. You want to be associated with something good and go viral. What I actually love about blockchain is it builds in accountability. So whatever it professes to do, as a consumer, we're able to go back that entire supply chain, walk through the steps of what they're actually doing, and verify it. Ensure that it is actually happening. So that gets rid of these issues with self-reporting, doing CSR just as a positive kind of brand or market, like I said, marketing ploy.
It's interesting that you say that, because one of the key things when I talk about blockchain and supply chain management, my focus in many of the previous videos that I've spoken about is just having a, full transparency on the provenance of a product. But I think of it in context of, like, for example, foodborne illnesses. Like if you have a problem with some romaine lettuce that has E. coli, being able to find the source of it. But where you're coming in is, for example, if you're buying fish, is that fish sustainable? Is that would be the angle you would say about blockchain application in sustainability?
Yeah, I think fish is a great example. So you have a lot of companies. I think I have tuna right now in the cupboard that it'll say sustainable or clean fisheries certified on it. There's a bunch of different organizations that do this, and then a company like Loblaws will go and they'll purchase tuna from this supplier, but they're trusting that down the supply chain, that company is actually harvesting the fish from an area that isn't overfished, where the species population isn't jeopardized. If they say it's not coming from a fish farm, they have to ensure it's not coming from a fish farm, that they're not using line fishing if they say they're not using line fishing. So those companies have metrics to ensure that they're mitigating their impact on the environment. And blockchain is, it's a way for us as consumers to just essentially verify it. Like what I like about blockchain, and I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but I think some of the audience that maybe knows me might not know a whole lot about blockchain. Blockchain is kind of similar to like a bank transaction. When you have a typical purchase, you have a middleman like a bank that legitimizes that transaction. But with blockchain, every single step is between participant to participant. Mm-hmm. And so with blockchain, every participant or node retains a copy of that shared ledger, and every along all of the nodes, every transaction will show who the parties are. We'll know A and Z if you're purchasing a raw product, or if you're purchasing fish from a fishery, and you're a canning company, who those two parties are, what the transaction details are, so everything about that purchase, and then a timestamp with that unique kind of transaction signature. So it builds in so much, I think, transparency, security, accuracy, consistency, like even timeliness.
That's actually a brilliant explanation. You actually know a lot more about blockchain than I know about CSR. So very, very well put. What I love about your approach also is that everything is permanent and immutable. And the beauty of this that I can see is at the end of the day, if everybody's just trying to squeeze additional profits, then you know what? I'm sure there are parties along the way of that supply chain that could just game the system just to make a buck or more. One thing that's actually breaking my heart right now is what's going on in the Amazon. And a lot of the things that I've been reading about it also is that some of these might have actually been started by people just trying to profit and actually just clear the fields. Are you aware of the situation? Does this tie into what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, for me, I'm currently losing sleep over what is happening in the Amazon. Like I'm sure you're seeing lots of statistics on social media saying that the Amazon produces 20% of the world's oxygen, and then people antagonize that person, say that's not true. But I think at a very, very low level estimate, it produces at least 10%, if not 20% of global oxygen.
Wow.
Stores 2.2 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So that's more than 4 times all the CO2 Canada, as an energy producer, emits every single year. It stores that. Once you burn it, that's in the atmosphere. That's gone. And it's responsible for, I think, more than half of all of the species on the planet. I know more than half of the 10 million species live in tropical rainforests, and more than half of our remaining rainforest is the Amazon. So there's a lot at stake. And I mean, even just to follow up on your point, George, like I think one really good way that you could pair up protection of the Amazon with CSR and with blockchain is basically any area that's being deforested right now as a result of these forest fires. There's 76,000 of them happening in the Amazon right now.
Wow.
Those areas that were pristine forests before, we need to have a commitment, not just talking points, an actual commitment to reforesting the Amazon. I think it was Finland's finance minister yesterday said there should be a boycott of beef from Brazil. I don't agree with that, but I do feel like any area that's being deforested as a result of these fires, if it's converted into a farm for soy, for cows, for industry, and we profit from that in the West, then those companies need to be held accountable. They should be able to verify through their supply chain
Right.
where they're getting their goods. And you can, with blockchain, we could actually verify where these transactions are happening at the very, very first kind of level. And we can ensure that the forest in the Amazon, anything that's being converted, these companies that are profiting from this clearing of the land, we're not going to be purchasing those goods.
Right. And you know what you bring up is really, really interesting also. And I mean, first off, I'm very, very, how can I put it? It's very instructive what you're sharing. I'm sure the audience right now is actually learning a lot from because I mean, I have to admit to you, I mean, I care about the planet and I do what I can. I recycle. I do my best not to waste water. I do my best to just be as what I believe would make me the most responsible consumer, just buying things that have the least impact. But the truth is there's so much more that I'm not aware of. And at the end of the day, when I go to a store and I buy one product versus another product, there's only so much that I really know. There's only so much that I can know. And there's so much product selection. So I can see where somebody in corporate social responsibility could have a big impact, especially when it's spread across. There's 7 billion of us on the planet. How do you educate all of us, right? So I understand blocksEDU is actually an education company. You're doing some courses on corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, that's correct. So right now I'm developing courseware for universities on corporate social responsibility. So everything from A to Z of CSR. What is it? What are the fundamentals? Getting through the kind of murkiness of the definition, so it's kind of crystallized. Then also talking about what are all the different kind of umbrellas or avenues that you can explore with CSR. How does a company actually report on their CSR activities, and how is that verified? So one thing that's happening right now, which is really interesting, is all of these stock indexes now are increasingly including sustainable portfolios. The Dow Jones does it, Morgan Stanley does it, and they put together these companies that have the best social and environmental profiles, the best kind of CSR initiatives. And if a company isn't doing what they profess to do, they exclude them. So I talk a lot about that in the course, so that also weeds out this this kind of issue with self-reporting, just doing things that are good PR, just window dressing your activities, but not actually doing it. And then the last thing I focus on is brand activism, marketing. So if you're actually doing something, don't be missed. You want the public to know that you're actually doing something good. If you're actually going back and working with a company in the Amazon that's reforesting it, you should know how to promote that through the right kind of social media avenues. So it's all of those aspects in CSR. I do it for universities, and I do it for corporations, and I do it for the public. So
what's interesting is just bringing in a little bit from my perspective. So I'm an instructor in blockchain technology, and many of the people who actually take my courses are people that are actually looking to get into a career in blockchain. But there are careers in corporate social responsibility as well, correct? I mean, I tell you, when I was in college, corporate social responsibility was not an option. At least it wasn't brought up to me as something that I could do. But now it's like corporate social responsibility really is a career, and there are people who are building their entire lives and their livelihoods around that. Could you share more about that?
Absolutely, that's a very good question, and I even get that question a lot. Myself, when I talk about CSR, because it's such a new field, people aren't aware of the scale of opportunities and businesses or arms of businesses that exist with CSR right now. So I think out of Fortune 500 companies, and I was just looking at the S&P index yesterday, the Fortune 500 companies, 93% now produce a sustainability report. And they have teams, individuals permanently allocated to working on those sustainability initiatives. I would kind of compare it to project management. So I think like prior to the 50s, project manager wasn't really a certification. It wasn't like a design kind of skill set. But now it's ubiquitous. Almost every single business has project managers, and they need to get formal training to know, what are the basics of managing a project: cost, scale, scope. Exact same thing in CSR. You want to manage cost, scale, scope, but marketing, investing, all of those facets of CSR, you need formal education in it, and there's a massive market for it. Both, even in the EU right now, it's mandatory that any company with over 500 employees now needs to have a sustainability arm.
Interesting.
Companies.
That's actually very, very interesting. And you know what I like about this is my focus with blockchain, and where Blockchain Institute of Technology is focused primarily is creating positive change through the use of blockchain. You know, like using, changing the world one blockchain at a time. And if we use this technology properly, we're bound to make a better world for everyone. Well, CSR is that. The vision around CSR is actually to sustain the world that we currently have and actually make it a better space. No?
George, like I think a perfect example of that. So when people think blockchain, they think of Bitcoin. And
Sure.
Bitcoin was born out of the financial crisis in 2008, pretty much. It was designed to solve the problems that arise when trusted authorities,
Hmm.
like banks, no longer fulfill their broader societal obligations. We don't want to be complicit with companies that benefit from destroying the earth. And that's, I think, essentially at the core of it, what CSR is about. I
I think
think
it's actually what you're saying is actually going to resonate strong, especially with the audience that follows this channel. There's a lot of focus on we're all looking at the world that we're in, and we do acknowledge, I mean, at least I do, and many of the people that I interact with, that there are problems. Right now, the situation that's going on in the Amazon, I'm also very frustrated over it, but I feel distant. I don't know how much I can really do with it, and I trust that the companies that are there are going to do something about it, and hopefully I'll be able to act to it. So what you're putting in is that the corporate social responsibility executives in these companies will have to take action and figure out how to actually do the best with what's currently happening, no?
okay, 100%. I think there needs to be a call for action for companies that are going to profit from deforestation of the Amazon. Those companies that have profited from the past, if you're going to do that and at the same time try to profess to have a very strong CSR platform, the public is going to see through it. And I think that's going to come to light, and I think we have to hold them accountable. But even the individuals just listening to this, there's a lot of things you can do. There's We Trees. There's a number of reforestation organizations working in the Amazon right now, and one I found last night is called Ecosia, which is essentially, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's like a Google search like URL. So you just basically go through this search engine, and every time you use it and you get directed to a site, they have some money generated, and that money, 80% of it goes to reforesting trees. So
Can you spell that? Can you spell that just so
yeah,
for the audience members? How
it's
do you?
so easy to use. It's
Yeah,
Ecosia.
Ecosia. Okay, got it.
In 2 days since using it, and I haven't purchased anything online, just doing searches, just using it like I use Google, in 2 days, it's giving me a note. You've planted 40 trees.
Wow.
So all of their ad revenue just goes to planting trees, or 80%. So, I mean, that's a small step. And these companies that are doing these things, I think it's just showing that there's a more progressive mindset right now with our generation. We want to take the same activities we were doing before, but also do good with them. We all use search engines, so let's use one that we can actually benefit the environment with.
That's actually wonderful to be able to see that. Cameron, this has been a very, very enlightening conversation. I've actually learned a lot. I'm sure the audience has actually gotten it. But how can people find out more about you? Because I'm sure there's a lot more we haven't talked about, especially if anybody wants to be involved in corporate social responsibility, wants to learn, maybe build a career around it. How can they learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely, and thanks for bringing that up, George. Yeah, so if anyone is curious about CSR, you want to take one of our full certificate programs or just a module on CSR marketing, CSR fundamentals, or sustainable investing, you can reach out to me on blocksEDU, blocksEDU.com/CSR. I have a contact me page. Those emails will come to me. I'd be happy to work with you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'm also just about to launch a podcast that will be called Gold is Green. And that will be coming out in, I think, probably a month. I'm pulling together some really, really heavy hitters in the field, like we were talking about, those corporate executives that are actually championing these initiatives. And I'm very excited about it. It's links between sustainability and profitability. We'll have a link to that on blocksedu.com as well. And if you want to just reach out to me, I can get you on the mailing list, distribution list. I'd be happy to chat with you. And if you want to be on it, reach out to me.
Cameron Jones, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a very, very enlightening conversation, and I wish you and blocksEDU much success.
Thank you, George. I wish you the best as well. This has been great. So appreciate it.
Thank you.